Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jessie Nealand, and today we will be tackling number 3 of the Self Objectifiers' most common characteristics, which today is that they tend to be women and femmes. Now, granted, they can be anybody, but there is a very strong pull or a lot of crossover with self-objectification, the habit of seeing yourself as a sexual object existing for the pleasure and gratification of others, and being a woman or femme in our culture. Huge reason is just we live in a patriarchy, and in the patriarchy, women are objectified. That's it, right? Like we learn to internalize how other people see us. So if other people have treated us from a young age, as so many girls and women and femmes have, that's how we learn to see ourselves and our value. We learn to identify with, oh, other people value me for how I look, and they value me for how much pleasure I can give them by looking at me, and they value me for, my ability to like tend to them in sort of a either emotional or domestic caretaker way or a sexual way, caretaker way, which is like offering them sexual gratification. So a lot of the stuff that affects the self-objectifier has total crossover with the stuff that affects women and femmes. That's how we get that major, commonly, seen characteristic. However, we also see it among gay men, particularly more effeminate gay men, will often identify with the self-objectifier more often than a straight man. Because again, those tend to be the kind of folks who have been objectified, sexualized, fetishized, just really offered very particular sort of response to them that they internalize as their identity and their sense of worth. Also, we live in a patriarchy that makes people who are, women identified or femme or, in any way representative of sort of archetypal feminine characteristics as being totally devalued and like worth less to the world. There's this idea that men's work is important and women's work is, should be free. Like raising children, domestic labor, caretaking for elderly folks, all of these things that are like sort of community-minded is considered women's labor, and it should just be done for free, and women should do it, and it's not that important. That's like in our capitalistic world, in our patriarchal world, that's the perception. Whereas, men's work is supposedly so valuable, they should be making all of the money and getting all of the praise for doing it. And there is this definite hierarchy of men's work being of more value than, traditional women's work or whatever. So with that in mind, a lot of women, femmes, girls, they don't ever really learn to hold their own value in any particular meaningful way. Other people devalue who they are as people, and other people treat them like sexual objects. So they come to see their worth that way. I am here to offer pleasure and gratification for others, and my value and worth is dependent on how well I do that job. And that's it. So with that in mind, it leads to a lot of girls, femmes, and women who struggle enormously with self-objectification and the body image issues that come with that. Granted, I want to be super clear. Anybody can be a self-objectifier. It is not in any way dependent upon gender or gender presentation. It is just something I see so often. This pattern plays out over and over because of the crossover in our patriarchy between women, girls, and femmes, and being seen a certain way, being valued for our ability to give pleasurable experiences to others, and not being valued at all for who we are as people, whole three-dimensional, interesting, vibrant protagonists as people. Like that is not how women, girls, and femmes are generally taught to think of themselves. And so that's where that crossover happens. If you resonate with this, you might be a self-objectifier. It's entirely possible that on your path to body neutrality, you're gonna have to really look at this pattern. Obviously, you're not necessarily going to change your gender or gender presentation to conform to any of these things. It is just something to be aware of, and also to notice for yourself, where has oppression created your sense of self-worth? Where has other people's views of your worth and value and other people's biases and bigotry played a role in how you see your worth and value and your role in the world? Because if other people fetishized you or sexualized you or objectified you and then told you nothing you really are or do matters to me, it's pretty understandable why you might come to think of how you look as so important. That said, it doesn't make it any more true. It just means it's stuff to work through on your path to healing. So that's my number 3 on the self-objectifier's most common characteristics. If this content was valuable to you, I would love if you would hit like and subscribe. You can go ahead and leave me a comment or a question. I love to interact with you all. And that is it. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll catch you next week.